Sam Raimi mashes up some genres with Send Help. It's a darkish comedy, a thriller, and a little bit of a horror starring Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. So who's going to get voted off this island? Two colleagues become stranded on a deserted island where they must overcome past grievances and work together to survive. But ultimately, it's a battle of wills and wits to make it out alive. This starts out as a semi-typical deserted island survival story and then morphs through a lot of different feels that ultimately evolves, or maybe devolves, into a psychological war of dominance. Rachel McAdams is Linda, an excellent employee at the company that Dylan O'Brien's Bradley just took over from his deceased dad. And while she is frumpy, socially awkward, even a bit mess visually, she's highly intelligent, exacting in her work, and very reliable. Bradley, on the other hand, is basically a D-bag bro. He gives off white frat boy privilege vibes the moment that he enters a room, and then exudes that hubristic misogyny in just about every situation. They're both stereotypical characterizations with personalities that are just exploited to make the movie as bat-crap crazy as it can be. So here we have Linda set up as the underdog, and Bradley set up as the tool, which is completely fair. However, we also get to see things about Linda's life that show she's got way more going on under the surface than her colleagues know, and that underestimation could either help or harm them. Now, the first 20-ish minutes of the story, they really work to set up Linda as the character that we want to root for. Knowing that this is going to become a survival story on a deserted island, she's the sympathetic person most are going to cheer for. The storytelling does a great job of showcasing her knowledge and thought processes that make her both an outstanding employee and the one you'd most likely want to be stranded with. Now, Raimi doesn't neglect his filmmaking roots with this at all. At unexpected, even opportune moments, he infuses subtle gags, freakish violence, and then horrifying imagery, all while placing characters in situations where they have to be both self-reliant and then cooperative while trying to figure out how to live through whatever nightmare they're in at that moment. There were more than a handful of times in the showing that I was at that the whole theater was belly laughing out loud. And these weren't from jokes. They were built and executed through situational hilarity with payoffs that range from campy to grotesque. And I think what makes so many of the laughs work is that they pop up in unexpected ways and with unsuspecting characters. Both McAdams and O'Brien, they play their characters to the hilt. They fully dive into the roles and then embrace the isolated zaniness expertly. Throughout the film, we know exactly how Bradley's going to behave. Even before they're stranded, he's shown his cards and what type of skills and personality he has. While he's a complete jerk, there are some brief moments within scenes that he becomes just a little sympathetic, like he's beginning to showcase some growth and maturity, possibly becoming someone we can cheer on, at least for a little bit. But while this is going on, a strange dynamic enters the story, and Linda becomes less of a compassionate or sensitive character, twisting up the narrative so that it's not entirely clear whose side we should be on. And I'm not saying that she becomes instantly dislikable or anything like that. There's just some conflicting emotions that are introduced, and they add some unforeseen complications within the storytelling. Now, the majority of the plot, it's predictable, but that didn't affect the enjoyment for me. This is a wild ride of emotions and excitement, kind of like watching Grumpy Old Men or The Odd Couple, but with way more animosity and blood. And this is just short of 2 hours, but you can kind of feel a little bit of the time, especially because once we know the trajectory and then can anticipate the climax, not necessarily the outcome, but the story continues on and then it kind of overextends sequences. And while most of the movie is a Castaway type scenario, Raimi blends in his use of freakish imagery, nightmarish visions, and then incredible amounts of blood. And some of the violent actions, they're gnarly as we get to see the moves that produce this gore. Other times, though, we only see reactions and spurtings, leaving the extreme discomfort to be enhanced by our imaginations. Both are effective and highly enjoyable, just in a twisted sense. There's not much in this that makes it wholly original or fresh, but that doesn't mean it's not a bunch of fun. With characters we love to hate and others we're not sure if we're supposed to like, this story of endurance moves from simple survival to holy crap psychological warfare infused with cruel scheming, sadistic manipulation, and outright bloody insanity. The story is overly long and extremely predictable, but the performances from both McAdams and O'Brien accentuate the dark comedy and thrills to make for an exciting and squeamishly funny adventure. There's no sex, a little bit of nudity, ton of profanity, and then some brutal violence. I give Send Help 3.5 out of 5 couches. This is a lot of fun to see in the theater with a bunch of others, and it's going to be a lot of fun as a casual rewatch too. So what are some other survival or maybe feuding movies that you have seen that are fun? Let me know about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.